Right, so now that we've done the armrests, we're gonna look at the base. It's a fairly simple shape, all right? It's fairly easy to do. And so if I'm gonna switch to the left viewport, that's what it looks like. Well, it's hard to see, but it's here. If you follow my cursor, it's this shape that we're gonna create basically, okay? So it's a very simple shape. So I'm just gonna hide, I'm gonna go to the layers tab and I'm just gonna hide my subds, and maybe I'm gonna work on a new layer, so layer 04 for example. Now if you double click on layer 04, you can rename it and assign any name you want. And I just want to make a parenthesis because I noticed something weird in Rhino v7. When I opened my file, all my JPEGs, the images were missing, all right, for whatever reason, I don't know why. So what I did to get them back, you select your image in the properties tab, you go to the material icon, so it's a second icon under the properties tab, and just uncheck color mask. I don't know why the use color mask, when it was checked and I opened it, it just disappeared for whatever reason. And I readjusted the transparency of my object because I found that it was getting harder and harder to read my blueprint. So I did the same for all the other images. I just uncheck color mask, all right? That's under the material icon in the properties tab, and I lower the transparency level so that I can see better, all right? So let's go back to our layer 04, okay, which is active, and I'm hiding my armrest, I'm hiding my cushions. And so now if I go to the left viewport, I'm just going to draw a simple shape for my armrest support or seat structure. So I'm going to use the curve tool, so control point curve again, and I'm going to place my first point approximately here. Place my second point, third point. Maybe this one will be a bit closer since the curvature is getting tighter. So again, trying to space them as best as I can without adding too many. Doesn't matter if it's not right at the beginning, we're going to correct this right now. So I'm going to select my curve, and in Rhino 7 and V6, when you select your curve, your control point appear automatically. So I'm going to expand my toolbar under Analyze Direction, and again I'm going to apply the curvature graph on, and I'm just going to adjust the display scale, and I can see, you know, let's make it a bit more visible. Let's turn it red, for example. There you go. So you can see here there's a knot, here there's a knot. Now you can remove them manually if you want. So if you go under the icon called Show Object Control Point, if you expand the toolbar, you can definitely remove your knots by clicking on this icon, and one by one you remove the knots if you wish. Personally, I like to use the rebuild function, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to right click under the fillet curve icon, and I'm going to click on rebuild curve. So again, the original curve is degree 3 and it has 12 control points. So if I make it single span 5, 6, all right, degree 5 with 6 control points, I will have a deviation of 0.17. So maybe it's not the best option of going single span. I still have too few control points. However, I'm going to maintain the degree 5, and I'm going to try with 9 control points or 10 control points. So I see that between 9 and 10 there's not much difference. Even with 8, I'm at 200th of an inch deviation. So I'm going to say degree 5 with 8 control points, and there's going to be a small deviation of 200th of an inch, and I'm just going to click OK. And now you can see again the very nice progressive curvature, except here you can see there's a dent happening, so you don't want that, you unless it's intended, but in this case it's not the case. So I'm just going to first lock my background image, don't forget that, and I'm just going to select this control point and move it down a bit, and maybe take this control point, move it down as well a little bit, and take the fourth control point here, So you can see that it has an overall influence on your curve, okay? So it's, don't just focus on only one control point. Try and modify your control points throughout the curve. And I'm going to select this one and maybe move. No, that's not a good idea. There you go. That's better. So something like that. And this is not bad. Maybe I'm going to select this control point. And you can also use, you see the square here on the, that means you're moving along the plane. You're moving in X and Y direction. So you can either constrain along one axis or you can move in both axes on the plane. So that's what I'm doing. And just readjusting, making fine-tuned like that. Okay, so let's say that I'm happy with that. That's fine. Let's go and let's carry on with the exercise. So what I'm gonna do, I think I have an idea. I'm gonna draw a straight line. I'm gonna snap at endpoint with my snapping toolbar. I'm gonna grab this point here and I'm gonna press shift to lock it along the Y direction, or the Z direction I should say. If you look at the bottom left hand corner of my screen, that's what it says. So I'm just gonna draw a straight line like that for now, all right? And now I'm gonna draw another straight line. So I'm gonna snap to this endpoint, press shift, and I'm gonna go about here. Now I find that it's a bit too low, so I'm gonna select this point and this point, and then I'm gonna press shift and just select these two control points like that, and just move it a bit higher like that. All right. And now I'm gonna draw another curve. So maybe I'm gonna draw a vector. So I'm gonna draw a straight line that goes up like that. I'm gonna press shift and I'm gonna go straight up along the Z axis. And there you have it, okay? So now I've done that, and I'm gonna use the control point curve, and you'll see why I did this later on. And I'm just gonna follow, so I'm gonna click, I'm gonna place my first point here, second point, third point, fourth point, and I'm gonna stop it here at the fourth point. So there you have it. Now the reason why I did this here, it's because I want this curve to be, the tip of this curve to be tangent to this vector basically. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do match curve. So I'm going to right click under the fillet curves, expand the toolbar, and here's my function match curve. I'm going to left click on that. So I'm going to say I want the curve, the lower curve, this one, to be tangent, to impose a tangency. So I have to click on this curve first, and then I click on the second curve here. That means I'm forcing the first curve where I clicked the first time. That's the one I want to modify. You can do an average of the two if you want, but that's not what I want. I want to maintain my vector to be along the Z direction. And I can have a tangency or I can have a curvature. So with the curvature, that means the first two control points of my curve are going to be forced to be aligned with the Z axis. So you'll see what I mean by that if I click OK. And if I select this curve now, you can see that this control point here and this control point here, let me highlight them for you. These two control points means curvature, and it's aligned with the Z direction like that. If it was only tangency, it would be only this control point that would be aligned with with the vector here, basically. Okay, I hope that's clear enough. And I'm going to do a curvature graph maybe, and just see what it looks like. So here I think it's a nut. It looks like one. So I'm just going to do a rebuild function. Now, when you do rebuild, it might modify the tangency or curvature constraints that you impose. So you're going to have to redo a match after you've done a rebuild. Okay, so I'm going to make it single span, and let's see, the deviation is only 1/100th. So I like that, with 5 degree and 6 control points basically. So I'm going to click OK, and that looks great. Now let's see if I do a match curve, and I do this curve with this one. Now, because I spread out my control points much further by doing the rebuild function, look what happens when I'm in curvature. It's gonna, you see the new curve in the black line? That's, if I click OK, that's what's gonna happen, all right? So curvature means that I don't have too many control points in this case. So I'm gonna Control Z, and I'm gonna say a tangency in this case. So I'm gonna do match curve, select this curve and that axis, and let's not just make it one tangent. That means only the first control point of that curve will be aligned with the Z direction. If you want to make a curvature, that means you're gonna probably have to add another control point. So 5, 7, degree 5 with 7 control point, or maybe with 8 control point, and then you can play with the curvature if you wish. So I'm gonna make it tangent only, and that's fine. And there you go. So you see here, the first control point is aligned with this axis, but the second control point of my curve is not anymore. So that means I'm only tangent. So I've done for this curve. You know what? I find it a bit hard for you guys to see, so I'm just gonna adjust the transparency quickly. So I'm gonna go here and where it says object transparent. Let's make it a bit more transparent like that. And don't forget to lock your layers for the background image. There you go. So this curve looks fine, nice and progressive. And I'm gonna click on control point curve, and I'm gonna work on this part this time here, and place a second point, third point, fourth. It's fairly straight, and I'm gonna leave it at about here, something like that. So this one, I'm gonna do another curvature graph. And because it's fairly straight, it's hard to see the curvature. So I'm going to increase the display scale. And now we can see there's a knot here, and there's a, well, there's a positive and negative curvature happening. So I'm going to click on rebuild. I'm going to clean this up. So here I have a multi-span, a span of 2, and I want to change it to a single span. So I'm going to say 5, 6, or you can make it 4 or 5 if you want. If you find that it's too many control points, you can make it 4, 5. You can see the deviation. This is 10,000th to 10,000th of an inch, so that's very small, and you click OK, and there you go. You know, it's much cleaner that way. But now we're not done yet. I need to move some of these control points and see how I can make it look better. So let's try that. So let's take this control point and move it a bit higher. Now it's sometimes very sensitive when I want to move these control points. There's a function, it's called nudge. So you can select the point, and with the up arrow, is it the up? No, it's not the up arrow. It's, you press Alt and up arrow, up and down arrow. So you press Alt and up arrow or down arrow, you're nudging. And in the settings, in tools options, you can change the increment of your nudge, okay? But I'm gonna leave it like that, that's fine. So as a reminder, you just select your control point, you press Alt and then up arrow or down arrow, and you're doing what we call nudge, all right? By moving it with slight increments. The other thing you could do is also select this control point, and you just click on the axis once, and you type a very small value. Let's say I want to move it by a fraction, by 0.05 to be precise. And there you have it, okay? So if I left click on the axis and I type minus 0.05, that means I'm going on the opposite direction, and there you have it, okay? So you can use the gumball as well to move with more precision by just left clicking on the axis of your gumball. Okay, so that looks good, I like that. And I'm going to create another curve. So I'm going to use again the control point curve, and I'm going to place my first point here, second, third, and why not a fourth one like that. And I'm just going to rebuild this quickly. So it's already single span because it's 3 and 4, as you can see. So I'm not going to actually rebuild it. I don't need to. It looks okay. I'm just going to use the curvature graph. Maybe reduce the scale. Let's reduce that. Yeah, there you go. So it looks pretty good already. So I created automatically a single span by just placing 4 control points. Okay, so now I'm going to turn off my curvature graph, zoom out, and I'm going to join. So I'm going to click on join, and I'm going to select one by one, first, second, third, fourth, fifth curve. I see that I'm missing one curve, so I'm going to work on that later on, and right click to join at least all these curves together. And I need to do here another adjustable blend curve. So adjustable blend curve, select this curve, select that curve, and with the handles again. You can click on show curvature once again on your menu and see how it behaves like that. all right? So you can see the difference. You see, I just want to point out something. I'm in curvature continuity at 1, and I'm at tangency continuity at 2. This is typical of a graph. When you have a tangency and it stops like this is perfectly normal. That means I'm in tangency if you read the graph properly. All right, so from one extremity to the other extremity of that curve, you should see something like that. That means it's a tangency. I have a nice flow, an acceleration of my curve. And you see here, this is a more progressive continuity to the second curve. You see how it stops versus the tangency. And if I go to G3, for example, you see even smoother approach, and G4 is going to make it even smoother, all right? And that's why people are obsessed with the surface quality, are going to play with either tangency, curvature, G3 and G4 continuities to make your curve as smooth as you wish, all right? And that's the beauty of working with NURBS surfaces. It's a very powerful technique. And it's a very precise technique, okay? And I see some advantages of working with NURBS versus using Subds personally. In Subds, it's easier, and it does provide a very good quality of surface. However, the precision is not the same as the NURBS tools, all right? But it's just a matter of personal preferences also. And it depends what subject you are working on. So once you've done that and you're happy with the way it looks, you just click OK. All right, so now I'm going to join all this together. So I'm going to click on join and select, whoops, let's do it again. Join, select this curve with that curve, and make sure once again that once you've selected all your curves and joined them, that it says either in the command line, you can see here 2 curves joined into one closed curve. All right, this is important. Or again, go in the properties tab where it says object, under the object icon, it says here under type closed curve. Very important. All right, so now that I've done that, it's the same thing as we've done previously. I've got a nice planar curve. That's one important element to take into account, because I need to respect that condition when I'm about to extrude a planar curve to make it a solid. So I'm just going to move that curve from the top view so that I can line it up to make my seat structure, or my box basically. That's going to surround the cushions. So here it is. And like I said, there are different ways of creating your solid. So I'm going to show you the different ways again. You can either do surface, extrude curve straight, and you can extrude it like that. You can key in a certain value if you want more precision. You know, you just type the thickness of whatever value, 3 inches, 4 inches, whatever. And you go like this, and there you have it. And now that I've got a nice poly surface, a nice extrusion, I can cap it. So I select this and I go to solid and cap planar holes, and it's going to automatically turn this into a solid. Okay, now I'm going to click undo. I'm going to click undo again, and I'm going to try another way. So for those for the newcomers, the other way could be also, I want to create a solid automatically. I can do solid, extrude planar curve. Again, it emphasizes on the fact that it has to be planar, so for it to work properly. So, and then straight. Okay, so I zoom out and I can key in the command line the value specifically, or just do it dynamically like I'm doing with my cursor, so that it matches the background image. And there's my solid. All right, that's another way. Let me show you another way again. You can select this planar surface, planar curve, all right? It's planar. I can go here on the surface icon, so surface from 3 or 4 corner points, and select this one, surface from planar curve, and it's going to create a surface out of that shape. And then I can select that surface, and I can go in the solids menu, and I can extrude the surface straight. So you see there are multiple ways of doing it in Rhino. It's not like you're stuck with only one function. It's just a matter of, you know, getting accustomed and used to which function does what. You know, the more you practice, the more you're going to get it. That's all I have to say. So I don't need the original surface anymore, so I'm just going to select it and delete it, because now I just extruded out of that. So there you have it. And what I'm going to do also, before I start adding fillets, I want to create here a Boolean operation. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring back my armrest. So I'm going to click on the light bulb where it says layer 03, and I'm just going to select this poly surface And I just want to make sure that it's a nice solid. So yes, it says it's a close solid. That's one way of doing it. Okay, it doesn't mean that you have to do it like that. I just want to show you, you know, some smart ideas of doing it. So I can select this object, and I'm going to do edit, copy, edit, paste. So by doing that, if I click on it, I've got two solids now. So I'm just going to select this solid. I'm going to lock it temporarily. And then I'm going to select the rest of the armrest, and I'm just going to hide it. And then I'm just going to right click on the padlock and keep that solid. So now I have this solid here, and I've got a solid here there. So I can do a Boolean difference. So I'm going to right click on the Boolean union icon, expand my toolbar. And the second icon is called Boolean difference. I'm going to left click on that. I'm going to select my first solid, right click, select the second solid, right click. And there you have it. I've done a Boolean difference. However, if I zoom in, let me see what it does. Okay. Oh, that's not bad actually. You see that because there was a pocket I created and all that. That's interesting. So that's one way of doing it. Okay. However, you know, because it sits inside the seat structure, maybe that wasn't the best approach. But I wanted to show you that. Okay, just to give you some different ways of working with your geometries. All right, so let me just hide this. I don't need that for now. The other thing I could do, which would be better in my opinion actually, would be to extract. I'm going to extract a curve out of this shape here. So I'm going to right click on the project curve icon to expand the toolbar, and I'm going to go and find the function called duplicate edge. So the third icon, and I'm going to select this edge here. And I'm going to right click. All right. So now that I've done that, I'm just going to select the armrest. And I'm going to hide all that stuff. All right. So here's my duplicated edge. I'm just going to hide this curve here. Whoops. This curve here. Okay. Here it is. And what I'm going to do, so now I just want to check something. It's an open curve, that's fine. So I don't need all that shape. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to simplify. I'm going to use a line tool. I'm going to snap in point for maybe. I'm going to grab this point to that point, for example. All right. And then I'm going to click on trim. I'm going to select this line, and I'm going to trim off this part here of my curve. Okay, so what happened here is that you have to be careful. You have to make sure that this curve touches this one. So you see a little gap here. So I'm going to extend this curve all the way to this boundary. So to do that, you can go to the menu curve, extend curve, and extend curve again. All right. So it says select the boundary object. It's going to be this curve here. Right click, and then select the curve to extend. And I'm going to left click this part, and it's going to extend it automatically. It's very important that the curves touch when you're about to trim. All right. So I'm going to do it again. Trim, select this curve, right click, and then trim off this bottom part, and there you have it. And I need to zoom here because I can see that this curve and that curve need to be trimmed. So trim, select this curve, right click, and get rid of this part here. All right. So is this curve lying on the same plane as the... Yes, it does. Okay, that's good, and that's important. So I want to make sure that the curves are touching one another. So let me get rid of this for now. Like this. Let me join now this curve and this curve. All right. And so what I'm going to do now, I'll go back to my left viewport. I'm going to offset that curve. So I want to give it a bit of a gap. All right. This is the original curve of my armrest, and I'm just going to do a little offset just to give some tolerances, you know, to allow the armrest to swivel up and down if I want. So I'm going to go to the fillet curves menu, expand my toolbar. So it's the curve tools toolbar, and here you can modify your 2D curves. All right. So we saw the adjustable blend curve. You can do fillets with your curves. You can do chamfers with your curves. You've got the match curve. So we saw these functions, and here is offset curve. So I'm going to click on offset curve, and you have a distance here, so you can key in whatever value. I like to use the through point. So I'm just going to left click on through point, and I'm just going to move this so that I can visually see about this much. I want to offset it. All right. So now I don't need the original curve. I'm going to select it and delete it. So now that I've done that, I know that this curve is, once again, it's closed. That's important. And I know that it's planar. So it's on the same plane, basically. If you look at perspective view, that's what it looks like. All right. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the solids menu, extrude planar curve, straight. Now it's extruding in one direction only. You can, in the menu, you can do both sides equals yes, and you have, make sure that solid equals yes as well. All right. And so I'm going to go all the way across my armrest like that. And there you have it. So now I can do a Boolean difference. So let's go here, Boolean difference, select the armrest first, right click, and then select this one. Don't forget that delete input equals yes when you're about to do the Boolean difference, and there you have it. All right. So now we've done some cuts. So I can bring back my armrest. I'm going to right click on the light bulb and bring back my armrest. All right. So maybe I'm going to hide now the armrest layer. I don't need these curves. I'm going to select them and delete them. This one as well. That's for my armrest. Yeah, I can delete it. Or you can create another layer where you call them construction curves. I would advise you actually to keep your original curves, put them into another layer, and just hide them by clicking on the light bulb. That way, if you need to bring them back, that would be a lot simpler than just recreating everything. So now I'm just going to add some fillets. So in the solid tools, once again, I'm going to go and find the fillet edge, and I'm going to find, let's work on this, this. So I'm going to select all these edges that I want to round off. I'm going to go here. So it's going to be tricky here because you can see that the edges are different lengths. So you're going to be limited with the size of your fillet in certain areas. So we'll see what I can do. So I'm going to select, okay, so basically I'm going to select all of these edges, and I'm going to try and fillet at 0.07. So 0.07 is not bad, okay? It's not bad. Looks decent. And I'm just going to right click, and there you have it. Okay, I have a nice filleted object. Now I'm going to show you something new for the newcomers. Now you see that the armrest is very similar to what you see on the sketch, but let's say I want to modify the shape of my model. It's a solid, all right, and I want to modify, I want to taper it at the bottom. I want to curve this part, the bottom part here. So there are tools in Rhino that allow you to do that. It's called UDTs. So it's Uniform Deformation Tools. I know I briefly talked about it. It's under the move icon. If you expand the toolbar, it's called the transform toolbar. And here you've got a bunch of UDTs you can play with, all right? You can try with the taper function, definitely, if you want to experiment it. But I'm going to use the cage edit function. So I'm going to left click on cage edit. So it says in the command line, select the captive object. So I'm going to select this box or the armrest, and I'm just going to right click. So now what kind of control objects I want to create? You can create different ways, all right? You've got the bounding box, the line, the rectangle, the box. I'm going to say bounding box. So basically it's going to create an envelope of control points that will surround that shape. So I'm just going to click on the bounding box, leave this to coordinate system at world. So you just right click or press enter. And in this third menu, it says the X point in the number of control points for that bounding box in the X, Y, and Z direction, and the degree also. So you've got 4 by 4 by 4. So let's say that I think I'm going to increase in the Z direction. So I'm going to click on Z point count equal 4. And I'm going to say, let's increase it to, I don't know, 8, for example, like that. In the X and in the Y direction, I'm going to leave it at 4 by 4. Yeah, okay, I'm going to leave at 4 by 4 and we'll see what happens. So these are my cage parameters, and I'm just going to right click and leave it again to its default menu at global. That's fine. So I just right click again. So now you can see this bounding box of control points, and it's 4 by 4 on the X and Y direction and 8 in the Z direction. All right. So I'm going to select the control points that I want to move, and I'm gonna, with my mouse, I'm gonna create a box selection like that. And I'm gonna activate my gumball, obviously, and I'm gonna move these control points. And you can see that I'm reshaping my solid, basically. So I can take, for example, zoom in here, take all these control points, move them closer to the first row of control points, and I can do, again, select these control points, move them closer, maybe select this one, move it a bit closer, and so on. So maybe I might want to take this one a bit more out like that. And I'm going to try and keep a nice flow, so the ISO curves are visual cues, just to see how I can shape it. And you can see now I'm tapering in a very smooth fashion my box, my armrest. So maybe I went a bit too far here. I might want to pull this out. Something very progressive, all right? And maybe this one, I might want to pull it here like that, and so on. Maybe take this one and move it like that. Not bad. Maybe take this one. So I could spend quite a bit of time just sculpting this thing. And let's say that I'm happy. I just press escape twice, and there you have it. Now you end up with this box here, and I'm just going to delete it. So press delete and just remove it, and you've reshaped the bottom part of your solids. So if I select this and you go in the properties tab, you can see that it's still a solid. All right, so this is a pretty neat tool. It's the cage edit that you find here, and you've got a whole bunch of other options. So you've got here the twist effect, the bend, the taper, flow along curve, and so on. Okay, so check them out. They're very powerful and very useful, and they're huge time savers as well. So this is done for this part here. So in the next video, I'm gonna work on the bumper. Same technique as I've done for the armrest, basically, so nothing new for you guys. And we're making good progress, all right? So do that, and see you for the next video. Take care.